You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 133 of the Central Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrill. Today I'm joined, as always, by co-host Dakota Davis and producer Chris Guffey.
Today's episode features two very prominent guests. We said that they were the highest officials in Henry County, but how high, we don't know. That's Rex Peckinpaugh and, of course, the returning guest, Mr. Aaron Dicken. And we are going to be talking to them about the Newcastle city budget and some things that have been going on with that. They killed the budget proposed to the council on Monday night.
We are lawless, and there will be no city next year. We're out. It's over.
That's right. Yeah. So we're going to talk about why it died and where we go from here, and then we're going to talk about some things at the very end, like talking to constituents and what people care about the most in Newcastle, the city, because we are just now getting into our election series, and we're going to be bringing in the candidates, but these folks are running unopposed. So make sure you stick around to the end to hear about the issues in Newcastle.
So this show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we will provoke you on purpose. Other times we'll make you laugh. Not really on purpose, yeah. But hopefully you'll always learn something new. So you guys in January, February, you filed the paperwork and ran for re-election. Aaron, you represent Ward 4 in the city of Newcastle.
Yep.
Rex, we talked about this on the Patreon. You are the at-large.
At-large.
One of the two at-large city councilmen in Newcastle. You filed. There's two people in your race, right? You and Lynn Perdue, and nobody else ran. So you just get to skate through.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the re-election.
Well, thank you very much. But it's bittersweet in a lot of ways because, for one thing, the primary was the first election I've not voted in since I first started voting in, back in about 76. And then this will be the first general election I've not voted in. And we were talking earlier, my wife, of course, she asked why you guys were so short-sighted as to not have had me on the program yet, because she thinks I'm the most interesting guy in Newcastle. I guess that means she likes me, but my wife will not vote for me this fall, so I don't know if that's going to affect our home or not.
Yeah,
you have all my prayers.
I feel like
Thank you.
I feel like it's my obligation because I write this letter to the editor every couple of years. May is not a primary, or is not an election. It's a primary. It's where all the guys from Team Elephant or Team Donkey get together, and we spend taxpayer dollars for you guys to pick who you like the best.
Mm-hmm. Libertarians probably do it right. They have a convention.
We have a convention, and we have to pay for it our own dime. Yeah. It's
probably a little more unifying too.
Well, we've had some contested ones, and sometimes we look around and say, "No, really, you have to run this year."
Do you ever draw straws to see who has to run?
Yeah. We're a political party. Really, it'd be good if we had a candidate. That kind of thing happens from time to time. But we normally it's a pretty willing deal. And then the state conventions, we've been, when Rex ran for governor, different Rex, ran for governor in 2016, that was a contested race, and we had to work. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was like a presidential primary. I mean, we were going county to county to county, meeting with 3 or 4 or 5 potential delegates at a time, and, trying to get an audience and trying to show why we thought we were the best ticket to carry the message going forward for the party. And that ultimately we were successful there.
And Rex did a good job of carrying that message.
And he did. Yeah, it was. I was very happy. Obviously, the Libertarians get 3 statewide debates in the governor's races. And I think he had some very good performances, especially the one down in Evansville. We had a great time with that. Unfortunately, I think we hurt our totals a little bit with Rex's poor timing on his stroke. I wish he had checked with his campaign staff before he was going to pull that sort of a stunt, because I don't think it worked out the way we were hoping it would. But it's.
And now Bernie just went out and pulled a Rex.
And now Bernie's trying to follow him along.
Well, before we get too far into this,
Dakota's trying to pull it back out of the ditch.
Yeah, we have some people that we need to say thank you to. Those are the people who support us on Patreon every month with their dollars. They keep the lights on in the studio, and it's about to be winter, so they're going to be paying for the heat around here as well. And you can sign up for Patreon at patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. You can sign up at any level that you want to, and we will add you to a super secret Facebook group where you will get show notes, bonus 20-minute episode every week with the guests. And if you support us at $50 or more a month, then we promise to tell the world how great you are. Those people are Christy Avery, Jonathan Phillips, and, of course, Craig DaCosta. We also have T-Chip stores online at tchip.com/BHOL1, 2, or 3. And those are all made out of ultra premium material. And we use Cade's children as slave labor.
They are really slow coming up with those. I ordered those over a week ago, and those kids haven't churned them out yet. I had to wear this old iron-on Colts polo shirt. Thank God they won last week, or I would have been naked.
Well, I
can't wear a loser's shirt.
It's harvest season, so they're also a little busy with that.
That's probably true. They're probably out there drying. They're using Guffey for council matches to dry the beans.
They sure are. So thank you to everyone who supports us in any way that you can. We are genuinely very, very grateful for all of your support, and we are each and every week.
Top fan Zach Bertram is talking about the value of the Patreon group, and he says that he got to see the greatest gender reveal video in the history of the world.
That's right, he did.
In our Patreon with Dakota's. You named the kid.
Yeah, we can't give away the reveal video.
We will not give. You got to join.
You got to join.
You got to join.
That was special. It was very premium content.
Yeah, it was.
He's a man child having a child. That's what we'll say about it. And if you guys want to know, join at any level, and we'll get you in there. Jump in today. All right. So you guys, you know how we could have had a little more competition. Aaron, you and Rex live in District 4. You guys could have run against each other. One of you could pretend to be a Republican this year, and we could have just had a real election.
We could have wrestled for it.
Oh, I would love that. Because I'm sure not going to play tennis with you for it.
The loser gets the Ward 4 seat, and the winner gets the at-large seat. I think we should do that tonight.
Whoa,
hold on, wait a second.
I will for that. We'll make the arrangements and get the mats brought in.
My question: why is Ward 4 the losers? That doesn't make sense.
You misheard me.
You misunderstood.
The person that does not win gets to represent Ward 4.
The person who doesn't win
the person who
earns
wins
the privilege.
gets to choose which one they want to represent.
Yeah. Which one do you want to
That
keep?
works too.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. If you had the choice of, this will get theoretical. Rex, if you had the choice when you're in a contested race, if you have to cover the entire city, or if you have one fifth of the city to cover as far as doors,
$100 is your budget.
Which one are you going to do?
Well, see, I'm like Aaron in that I love people.
Right.
And so I love getting out there, going to the north side and the east side and, all over town, talking to people all over the place. So
the strategy doesn't come into mind for you.
No, not too much. I'm just going to go out there and have at it.
Just going to walk and talk.
And whatever happens, happens.
There we go.
See, and I grew up in Ward 4.
Right.
So it kind of feels like home to me.
Well, Aaron's grandma was Ward 4, wasn't she?
My aunt. No, I don't know.
I thought she was Ward 4.
Not.
Maybe not.
Maybe they redo the lines. So, I mean,
yeah.
I enjoy representing Ward 4, but, I think that Newcastle is small enough that, I think we all try to take care of our wards, but if somebody comes to an issue, we're not checking your ward card.
I'm sorry.
Where do you live?
I'm sorry. You're in the Hancock district, and I can't.
The whole city.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, I live 5 doors down from being represented, but I'm provided city services.
Yeah.
When I flush,
you're not represented
and when I turn it on. Well, that's the question I want to know is, we're getting all these improvements in white estates. You guys going to start plowing my streets and put some sidewalks in and add some street lights? And,
I doubt it.
You know, do all the things that come
Well, how
with
about
the
a better
city.
It's been said
like,
multiple
no.
times. Yeah, it's been said multiple times.
Because I would assume I would end up in Ward 4, and I could give you a run for your money.
That'd be fun.
And we'd have a great time.
It would. We could, you should do that. We should annex in White Estates
Just like to the
so
fifth
that you
house.
can
3 or
run,
4
and we'll
houses.
campaign together
Yeah. Well,
and just let people
it'll
vote
be like
right there
Lincoln
on their
Lincoln
on-
Douglas, and
on
we'll
their
just
porch.
go. We'll just go right up. Pick one right now. Choose. You have to choose right now.
And now buy this book.
Well, they're on
That's
Main
everything
Street.
we said.
On the west side of Maine, there's a point where the houses are in Newcastle, and then there's about 1 or 2 houses that
Yeah.
are not.
Right.
And then the next house
that's-
is.
yep,
You know,
that's-
It just bounces back and
So we
forth.
could just annex you.
Hey, if that's, I would do anything for content. We know that now at this point. 2.5 years in, if
I
Aaron
thought
would,
that was Chase.
well, I mean, Chase learned it from me.
Chase is going to run for Ward 4.
What if I kept like 3 shirts in your basement,
I mean,
and I just slept over a couple of Saturday nights when you and I have a few beers,
Well, that's been done before. We know that.
and then maybe
historically
I don't
speaking,
even think they kept anything in the basement. You know?
I'm just saying, maybe I keep a couple of beers in your beer
you have
fridge.
skeletons in the closet.
You could keep some stuff in the upstairs of the studio.
Well, no, I want to move into Ward 4 for this adventure, and then Aaron and I both run, and we have the same home address.
You are 1/4 of an owner of a piano that's in the basement, essentially, because you helped move.
I did
that
deposit.
piano.
I made the
So
deposit.
yeah.
You're that much of a collectivist.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good to know. Good to know.
The Dicken commune.
Right.
Just like our friend Darren Jacobs.
You
guys do spend a lot of time.
I do want to
together.
talk to you about that. My elbow's been bothering me ever since we put that piano down there, and I just wasn't sure what kind of medical coverage there was for that. I don't remember signing away any of my rights.
No, you have to talk to your insurance agent.
I'll have my agent talk to your agent.
Perfect.
Okay. So yeah, this is pretty much the way we do it, Rex.
Well, I think it's a good way to do it. I mean,
It's just
seems
conversational.
fun.
We've had everybody from state representatives, state senators to city council people, county officials, and it's a way for people. This is a platform for folks to get to know their elected representatives as well, and candidates. If we can recruit more than
I'm
one
kind
at
of
a
just a
time.
good old boy wrestling coach. It's what I've always been.
We should touch on that a little bit on the bio for you. You've got a few wins.
Yeah, we managed to get past 1,000 last year, and then we won't talk too much about it, but I retired this summer, and young man Gary Black, who wrestled for me, is going to take over as a coach, and I'm thrilled about that. He's a fine young man, good coach. He's going to probably take the program higher. I told him, I said, they won't even remember who I was 10 years from now.
Over 1,000 wins and many, many, many decades.
Yeah, too many decades, 41, 42 years, something like that.
That's incredible. And the number of young boys and men that came through the program that you've had an impact on.
Well, we've had
fantastic.
a lot of fun and a lot of people that helped build it, and couldn't have done it by myself. And I see those guys. I saw it was a sad experience. A gentleman named Larry Sutton that helped us in coach wrestling. His sons both wrestled for me. He passed away. We had the funeral, and so many of those guys came back, and I got to see a lot of them. And it was just, it was good and bad. It was bittersweet, but I was very happy to see them. And you see them with their kids, and they're doing pretty good, and they're married, and they're productive citizens, and got one that's a CIA agent, and he's the one that would come and rescue me if I were ever kidnapped in a foreign country.
Wow. All right. Did you send any to the WWE or WWF? I mean, big time wrestlers.
Well, now, it's interesting you mentioned that, but Vaughn Wasson wrestled for me 7 or 8 years ago. He is now in Colorado, and he's in a wrestling league, a fairly big professional wrestling league out there. And his dream in working through this is to make it into the big time. So he's working at it, and you'll see he's called Damian Malice, and he's on Facebook.
Damian Malice.
That's a really good
Right
wrestling
now.
name.
And I'm
That's
telling
a
you what,
great wrestling name.
he's got kind of takes Dakota and bushes out a lot more, and he looks like he's got malice when he's out there. But he's a really great,
All right.
he's a really
Boy,
great guy.
you're telling me I like picture an angry Dakota Davis.
Yeah.
I don't think Dakota's got enough fight in him right now.
All right now. All right. I was going to try to think of a witty comeback, but
What'd y'all do Monday
I had
night?
nothing. I had nothing. So the first question that I had for both of you guys, and we talked to Aaron a little bit about this the first time that he came on the show, but I want to hear it from you as well, Rex, and give new listeners a refresher of how you guys view the role that you have on the council. What do you?
I thought you were going to ask him if he's pro smoking in the parks, because that's what we talked about the first time.
We're past that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you hate freedom so much, Aaron. I really am. Completely legal product, and there you are just restricting people in their rights.
Unless you're vaping.
Oh, I'm sorry. The tool that gets people out of cigarette smoking, and there you are just picking on them.
Anyway, sorry. Don't mean
Speaking
to hijack
of-
your show.
Yeah. It's all right.
It's like Travis Wyke is here.
What a burn. So we'll start with you. We'll start with you since you were insulted.
Okay. All right. Well, so the question is what I feel like our role is on the council.
How do
right?
you view it in your words?
I view it that, we are there to bring creative ideas and solutions to problems and issues that come up. But I think more importantly, we're there to represent the people that put us there. I mean, I've told my wife many times after a meeting, if it's a frustrating conversation or whatever, I think the freeing thing is knowing that aside from Rex, nobody else at that table votes for me and puts me in that seat. It's the people, of Ward 4 that I'm there to represent. I'm there to elevate their voice to the table and in these discussions.
Wait, what district does the mayor live in?
I think that he lives in.
No.
I just can't figure
He would
out what
be-
district
He'd
that
be in
is.
Mark
Are you-
Coger's ward.
are you talking
Yeah, he's in.
about-
He's
he's
in
in county
I
council?
think he's Hancock's.
Okay.
Nah, I think he's 5.
So he's in
He's-
4 or 5.
He said district. He was
No,
talking
5.
about county.
Oh, gotcha.
I was just trying to figure out which of the people that sit at that table which ones have a chance to vote for you. And I wasn't sure where the mayor is.
It's just Rex. It's
Okay.
just
All right.
Rex.
All right.
But I think what I see a lot of people forgetting is that we're there also to listen. I think that's probably the most important, is to knock on these doors and be open to communication from our constituents and just listen to what they think are the issues and what problems they're having, and then go try to actually get something done, whether it's us personally taking care of it or just going to the right person and making sure it gets done, following up, week after week to make sure it gets done.
So to you, it's constituent service.
Yes.
Is the number one view, right? That's the
Yep.
that's the main day to day or the number one objective.
Yeah. And I think that probably has some different views. And I think that comes down to, what I'm hearing the most. So I might not hear directly from somebody that, they want to see the Murphy building come to life, but I know that they view downtown as important. So that kind of coincides with that project.
But downtown's not in Ward 4, so
Right.
yeah.
But there again, it's a small enough community and
in my
benefits
ward.
Ward 4.
It's in my ward.
And
Come on.
benefits Ward 4. All right. You want to go, Rex?
You better be careful what you ask for.
I won't tell about some of the times people have done that very thing and it hasn't turned out good for me.
1,000 wins. Aaron.
We go 1001 right over.
He's got one more good one in him. Guffy, get the
I'm
camera.
scrappy.
You are scrappy. But myself, I'm kind of like Aaron. It's working with the constituents. I feel the times when I am happiest about being on council is when somebody comes to me with a problem and I'm able to help them solve that problem. I think that's the thing that makes me probably the happiest. The second thing is when I drive somewhere or I'm in town and I look and I say, we did that. We got that done. Like we drive by every day, of course, out there in Ward 4, the sidewalk trail along Main Street up to Riley School, and I see
It almost gets all the way to Woodbrook. Just get it all the way to Woodbrook
It
for
was
me.
supposed to get there, but the state kind of, did the state thing. But
State thing.
yeah, but anyway,
a good way to put it.
you drive by that and say, hey, we did that. And it's never I did that, but it's we did that because we worked together and, try to come up with solutions and try to, help our citizens. Of course, we're a big part of what we do on the council is the budget, and it's the finances of the city. We're kind of it's kind of supposed to operate a little like the federal government in a class 3 city like we are. It doesn't quite work like that in terms of checks and balances, but we're supposed to kind of watch after the finances as best we can, and hopefully hold the mayor and other officials accountable. But it's it's a very rewarding job when you get to work with people.
So when you're 8 years on the council?
Yes, finishing 8.
So when you're in the beginning of that time, is it hey, here's how this is supposed to go, or did they send you to a class for class 3 cities to learn, hey, here's the responsibilities and how does that onboarding process work? Or how did it work for you?
There is a small seminar you can go to, but it really doesn't do much for you because it I don't know, it just doesn't really hit the crux of it. It's like when I was in college, we did student teaching. Well, yeah, that was nice, but I didn't really learn how to teach until I was in the classroom and I was sitting there and I was about ready to drown. And you learn how to swim, and that's really what it comes down to. When you first get in, Aaron can probably agree with this, but when you're running for office that first time and you're thinking, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to change the world and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then bam, you get in office. And it's like you hit a brick wall, and then you have to start to learn how to operate and learn how to, to get some things done in the real world. I guess.
And it's a big learning curve. I think, coming out of my first term, luckily, I could rely on people like Rex and Mark to kind of help us along. I think everybody feels that way. But it is a big learning curve, and you finally figure out what works and what doesn't by trial and error. You figure out, what gives you the strongest foundation to an argument the hard way. But it's definitely, you're teaching yourself how to swim. But I think the thing that keeps you going is you're fighting for your constituents and what they want.
Yep.
Do you trying to find the right way to phrase this? The thing that I'm looking at the deer. Poor Mac up there has been. He's just been looking at that other wall for quite a while.
The other way when
he's just shaking his head. Yeah, he's got beady eyes. Mac was killed by a county truck, by the way. He was. He was killed by a county truck, and Katie Coker gifted him to us. He's just beyond the camera for everybody. I guess I want to know about the role of the council and how it's supposed to interact with the mayor, because I know you have a council president, and then you have a board of 7, and you're an independent group, but then you interface interestingly with the executive, which is the mayor, and then all of the staff members that surround.
Well, Rex hit on that it's kind of supposed to function like the federal government, and there are some checks and balances there. It's a little. I've tried to educate our voters here locally because of how big the county race was in 2018. The city doesn't function like the county. The county level, the council is in control of the budget almost 100%. The commissioners are, creating ordinances. Here it's a little bit flip-flopped. The city council does get to vote on the budget, and they are, they develop the ordinances and refine the ordinances. Sometimes is what we're trying to do now is take these old ordinances and you bring them up to date.
You create ordinances, but you don't get to enforce the ordinances.
That's correct.
It becomes the executive branches or the mayor's office.
Correct.
Really, once things get out of the ordinance stage or the budget stage, we really do not have a lot of control. And I think that's what people don't understand. They don't understand that, for example, if we pass an ordinance tomorrow that the speed limit's going to be a certain level, well, if the mayor and the police chief don't enforce that, then
everybody wins.
We passed an ordinance, exactly. On the libertarian side.
Yeah.
Aside from,
how much more money we'd save if we took down those speed limit signs? We kept the stop signs, but we just took down the speed limit signs.
Oh, I'd love it.
Especially the ones in the school zone at 9:00 at night that says you're supposed to be going. That causes people to stop in front of me and do 16 miles an hour.
Jeremiah.
When they go 16 miles an hour at 9:00 at night because kids were there 5 hours ago,
Where's that dead horse?
But we can pass. What I'm really saying is we can pass the best ordinance that you could think of, and if the mayor doesn't want it enforced, then it's not going to get enforced because all the department heads answer to him.
Right.
So if he doesn't want it enforced, and
it takes a year or two for you to cut their budget until they enforce your rules, right?
Now the council does also, on the financial mechanism, it takes the council to enter into a purchase agreement, whether it's a lease or a bond. There is that side of it, but otherwise, the mayor's creating the budget. The mayor and his department heads are enforcing the laws, and then
once once it's allocated, there's a lot of leeway on where the money can go.
That's what I think somebody's asked me. There's a lot of great things going on in Newcastle, like the downtown lights, which I think's partially due to a grant with Duke Energy, and I think Duke's helping us out there. Sure. But if that's within the realms of the budget, then we will never hear of where that came from. And then you've got the Joe Lansinger branch that just dresses cool with the cool socks and decides when you're out of the ordinance and what your fine is or whatever.
Right.
I think it's only right. It's only right.
I was speechless after that one.
I know. It's only right for a municipal candidate series that you have Joe Lansinger here.
The prosecutor was here last week. I think
you know what? I'll take care of it right now.
When did you start running this show?
I'll take care of it.
Assistant.
You just sit there.
But I think generally Joe has kind of stood by the idea that he is not legally allowed to really get out and campaign and.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, he has
something.
Yeah, he can pretend that's the truth, but he's on the ballot, so that would be incorrect.
Well, he's not on the ballot now.
Well, he filed to run.
Yeah, he did file.
Yeah.
So let's start to talk a little bit about the budget, and I guess we'll start by talking about. You said that you or I guess Rex, you said that you vote on the budget, and that is the council's power as far as the budget is concerned. So, do you guys have any hand in the budget formulation process that you vote on, or do you just get the packet of paper?
We have very little input on what the actual budget is.
There's a budget committee. The council has a budget committee.
We have a finance committee, but currently the finance committee doesn't get a lot of information from the upper administration. Let's just say that in terms of the budget itself. But generally speaking, we have gotten the budget a few weeks before we're going to vote on it. You can go through it. You can try to express your disdain with various parts of it. That doesn't work very well. Normally, the time you want to really work on it, if you want some money in the budget for something or you want to change some allocation, is around in April. You kind of start there trying to talk to the mayor and say, hey, we need to, why don't we shift some more money to the bus system? Or why don't we, put some money there for the Murphy building or whatever, but mainly we vote on a budget presented by the mayor. And I think that's probably pretty standard in third-class cities.
So that's the conversation, I guess, that I'm trying to understand is, obviously this time the budget didn't pass. So there was a change of attitude or a change of positioning from the council this week. Has that ever happened? In the 8 years you've been around, have you seen a budget not go tick, 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 tick and get approved? Is this revolutionary?
I'm not sure it's happened in the last 20 years. I don't know for sure, but definitely in the last 8, it hasn't happened. But voting down the budget is really the council's.
It's your one recourse,
one chance to do something about it. We've brought up different things, and we never voted the budget down, even though maybe something we really wanted wasn't there. But this time it had more to do with the fact that we had employee groups that hadn't, especially before first reading, hadn't even been talked to. We felt that was unfair. We felt it wasn't very respectful. The mayor was busy doing other things, and they didn't get to negotiate. And then there's some of that has taken place, but still there are contracts. Most of the time when they come to an agreement, the contract does get ratified. So if they had come to an agreement on these contracts, even though maybe the employees hadn't taken a vote. I could see voting yes on the budget, but we were sitting there and, we just felt like it wasn't fair to our people. The two groups of people that should be most important to the council and to the mayor. Of course, it includes everybody in Newcastle, but it's the constituents and it's our workers.
Oh, yeah.
And that should be more important to us than any public works project or anything else. We should be taking care of our employees to the best of our ability. Certainly with the way finances are now, you can't take care of them the way you want to.
Right.
But we should be taking care of them as good as we can. And at minimum, we should be giving them respect by sitting down at the table and talking to them. Most of those groups knew there wasn't going to be a raise, but just the idea of being respectful, say, hey, come on in, let's talk about this. I want to show you where the money is and where we are, and
Right.
Let's go from there. I think that's kind of a statement we were making to a degree when we voted the budget down.
So that was going to be one of my questions on here, was that we found out that a lot of the public employees weren't even approached about the budget just to talk about it, like you said. But is that kind of just a standard thing that happens? Is it a requirement that they are in on those discussions?
There's nothing in the Indiana code that says you have to do that, I don't think.
What about like their union contract?
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, surely there's a union contract with the city, or, it just comes down to respect. I think in the conversations I've had with those employees that, like Rex said, they're not expecting raises. There might be some other things they can negotiate, but it's, sitting down, person to person, having that conversation. And I think it's just it's always been that way.
So the conversation has always happened in advance of the budget previously?
Well, most of the time now, last couple of years, I think it's been a slower process or one that's been put off. Mark Koger, last year.
Mark, for those that are listening that aren't familiar with all the players, Mark is the
Ward 3
council president.
Right.
Yeah, council president. Anyway, he made it clear last year, I think it was last year, that we were not going to put up with this idea of just waiting on these negotiations, and we waited on these negotiations,
and so
it's something that could have been done back in April. We're pretty sure we're not going to have any money. You could have at least met with all those groups, met with them, and said, "Hey, let's do some preliminary work on this," and but we didn't. So,
and I think part of that is that from the conversations I've had with the clerk treasurer elect, that's been very hands-on and helpful this budget session, is that we don't find out until the end of August what the tax impacts are, as far as what cuts we're going to have to make. But the discussions I've had with her for future budgets is that, like Rex just said, why not have the negotiations early on to get the meat and potatoes out there, and then once we understand the tax impact, refine it a little bit, and then you're ready to go at least by the second meeting in September. So which then gives you plenty of time to hash it out. And I would like to see the council, even if there's just a budget session, you get input from the department heads, because that's how you do your planning. So you don't have to come to the council and ask for certain things, even though there are needs that come up in the middle of the year.
Well, now, as I understand it, most of our department heads weren't asked about their budget.
That's the answers that I received from the ones that I talked to. And again, it's been pointed out that the budget's really just a wish list. But again, you're going to know the needs of your department. So have that conversation with department heads. Let the council provide input, because they're the ones that are talking to your constituents. You've got it on the table. Whether everything ends up that way or not, you've at least had input, and there's a little more transparency to the process.
Yes.
What I'm hearing from you in talking about the uncertainty and how much money you're going to get the next year in the budget, I assume a lot of that's driven by property tax revenue and tax caps.
Right.
And what we heard 2 weeks ago was that the county is looking at going ahead and borrowing another $2 million maintenance bond again, because they know that if they don't do that, the county's just not going to get that money.
Right.
but another government entity is going to. So you guys, once again, the state, this has kind of become the theme on the show, is that the state has set parameters that are now pitting cities versus towns versus counties for the same property tax money. So if you don't go for the maximum levy that you can, taxes aren't going to go down.
Right.
It's just that the county is going to get a bigger part of your pie.
Yep.
It's an interesting thing to talk about, and maybe a reason a guy should run for state rep.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Somebody ought to run for state rep. But they, it really comes down to the state level. The guys in Indianapolis, they want to be able to say to voters, we didn't raise taxes.
Right.
And certainly they didn't raise taxes, but their actions are causing Henry County, on, I think, October 17th to vote on a local tax
on our next
increase.
tax increase.
Yeah.
Well, and so,
but they look good, and they're sitting with $2 billion in a rainy day fund and all this.
What I've said all along is that they put the bullet in the gun and make the locals pull the trigger on themselves.
That's absolutely
That's
right.
exactly what happened.
now I had an interesting discussion with Chad Malacote the other day.
The
Honorable Chad Malacote. About this issue and the tax caps, because I saw the impact of the tax caps was like over $3 million for the city, this budget. But in having another conversation with a state representative from the Anderson area, there are other taxes that have been introduced to offset that tax cap. That's what I'm working on studying right now is, put them on the scale and see what it looks like. And I can understand the thought process there, but
yeah, we keep
bottom
adding
line
more and more
is-
local
right,
taxes.
right.
So what you've done is 10 years ago we agreed, hey, property taxes are too much. Government needs to live with less. And no, it's been,
right. Here,
we
you can have
need
this.
to keep growing
Here, you
government,
can have
but
Your
we're gonna
tax bill
complicate
doesn't
it.
go down.
We're
It's
gonna
just where you're
complicate
getting
it.
taxed at.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's
Now it's your income tax that we're stealing. And anytime this is the Mr. Libertarian over here, right? Anytime we introduce a new line or a new way to tick that box,
doesn't go away.
never sunsets,
Right.
and it's going to grow bigger.
Right.
Yep.
The Hall of
So-
Fame tax is now the food and beverage tax, which
And the argument could be that
which
tax has brought about some really great things that have made the community thrive, have brought in
brings
jobs.
great blessings upon the land that a board gets to vote on and bless individual groups and organizations. Just like Stellar does the
Right.
same thing, where 2 or 3 communities tick all the boxes and they get to win. Right? It's a lottery. So basically, what we've done is we've taken these tax
But all
programs
that
and
is
we're
the
creating
state giving us our own money
Exactly.
back that they've
That's
taken
it.
from
But
us.
then we'll celebrate it.
It's like they want you to come to them with your hat in hand and say, please let us have some money.
NDOT will do the same
Yeah.
thing, and they'll give you a community crossings grant.
Yeah.
Please,
It's-
sir.
this
After
is-
4 times.
Yeah, it took us 4 times of begging for it, and then we finally
This
applied.
is the process that you guys have to live with, and what I've
And so here's the thing. Number one, that's why every election's important. We always, everybody at this table.
It's not important to that the majority of citizens who didn't want to run.
Well, there's that. There's that.
Apparently it's not that important
That's
to
why
them.
our argument is your local elections almost matter more than the federal elections. I can't even remember what number 2 is. You just railroaded your show.
Well, right here.
This
This
pulling
seems
a
like
China
a
shop,
good,
man. I tear stuff up all the time.
this seems like a good time to get the
Biden
train
moment.
back on the tracks. It sounded like to me, both of you guys, the main reason that you let the budget die was because of the lack of conversation with public employees before it was talked about, right?
That's part of it for me, and I can't speak for Rex or anybody else at that table. But for me, last year I voted no on the budget too. So, this isn't new necessarily.
That's right. You were like our Clay Morgan last year.
Exactly. Right.
So-
just with less cool hair.
In the chat, I wasn't going to bring up the hair thing, guys. I did it in my promo earlier. Mike Broyles wants to know, is the budget the same as last year? Is this a flatline budget from the previous budget cycle, or is it just the
I
conversation?
think we have around a 2% increase in the budget this year.
Total.
Total.
The total
and
budget.
that's all going towards trash toters?
No, that would be a different. If we were to decide we wanted something to go to trash toters, we'd have to bring up an ordinance. We'd have to vote that we were going to add X number of dollars to the trash fee and go through the process of 3 readings and a public hearing and all of that. So, no, that's just
because you can't do trash toters out of a general fund or out of general revenue.
It has
you need
to come out of the.
It has to be tied to the that city service.
Right.
There's like 14 or 15 lines only that, and there, I mean, there's probably 25 lines that have changes from last year, and over half of them are between 1% to 5%. Most of them 1% and 2%.
What's in the proposed budget? What's getting the biggest bump? Who's making out big here?
Well, and that's so every year, that's how I compare, and then I like to dig a little further. So we've got a grant match for the airport. So obviously, and that's what
whose ward is that in?
Caused me. Well, it's not annexed
Now is
yet.
that
But that's what the increase is, and that's so I saw the increase. I asked questions and found out, well, there's a grant and we have to have the match for it. So that's why there's such a big increase in that line.
It's amazing to me that you had to ask the question.
Well, I mean,
If you're supposed
not
to
on
make,
the
if you're
aviation
supposed to
board.
make an educated vote on how taxpayer
But
money
that's
is
just
spent,
it.
but then and you have to start digging and asking questions
Right.
just to.
so that's the argument, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why we kind of are in the place we are, because one side thinks that you should be asking them, and the one side thinks that you should be bringing it to them, and vice versa.
Right.
And that's why, at least for me, and I'm sure Rex is the same way, before every meeting, I'm doing my homework. Before every budget, I'm digging in and kind of looking to see, what the changes are. There's a little bump in the council when the council line pays the insurance for the whole city. That's what is confusing to me. Community buildings went down because last year, was it the REMC building or the Armory, or one of those buildings was, one of the big projects.
Yeah.
And now we don't have that need this year.
Yes, that's exactly.
But otherwise, I mean, everything's
So-
pretty flatlined.
I've heard these rumors that there is certain amounts of money that gets thrown into this into the budget that can be used basically at the mayor's discretion. Is that true?
Well, I mean, I think
that
that's
true?
part of.
There's a great amount of the budget that can be used at the mayor's discretion. It's basically because we're a third class city, and you can certain parts of the budget can be moved, and you can. I mean,
Because
there's
like
always
you
a way
said earlier.
There's always a way to figure out how to do some of this moving around. There's some things it's hard to move money out of. I mean, utilities, you just can't go over and get utility. But if it's in the general fund part of the budget, it's pretty free and easy to move.
How much is in the proposed general fund?
I mean, this is all the general fund up here, and it's all divided
Okay.
into lines. So you're looking at
So the general fund
13.3
is-
million.
So Rex, could you draw the line and say, okay, no more discretionary. You guys are, if you're going to vote for a budget, you're going to vote for one that has everything in buckets, and that the discretionary is very minimal, or else you're just a no vote. Is that
Well, no,
is that
I
in the
don't-
council's power, or
I
not?
think that's the hard part about the budget is that it's all put in lines. I mean, it's like the lights. As long as he's paying for those, and the administration and the city's paying for those out of the right line, I mean, it's fair game,
Right.
right?
Right. And basically we don't have the ability to say, to micromanage, so to speak, to say you're only going to spend this money on this project, and you're only going to spend this money over here, because you'd have to probably be in a situation where you do everything that was going to come up in
over the
given
course of the
year's time,
cycle, yeah.
And there's no way you can
Right.
know that. I mean, you may all of a sudden have a very bad winter, and all of a sudden
And that's
you
what you
gotta find out
see.
more.
That's something you see with the county councils, is that they're moving money back and forth between accounts, and that doesn't really happen with the city council. You guys
Not
have one
usually
crowd
the end
on
of the
front
year,
end.
I think, is when they're trying to settle some things.
We'll get to the end of the year, and somebody will have
a shortfall,
a shortfall, or some other
someone else
department will have a surplus, and we'll move money around to balance that all out.
Okay.
Lots of times the insurance has to be supplemented, and we move some money around to take care of that.
So my biggest question, and this was we had a meeting with the fire department and talking to them with myself and then two candidates for the Libertarian Party, talking to them about what they needed. And one major concern that they had was, according to the National Fire Protection Agency, we're short guys here. And it was a discussion that we had, and I thought, we have the money. There's all these millions of dollars in the general fund that the mayor can use at his discretion. Is there a way that you could move stuff and say this is only to be used for the fire department? Otherwise, we vote no, so that we can get this place properly staffed. Well, is that in the council's power?
I think you could try to do that.
Kind of hold it hostage.
But then at some date we have to pass a budget.
Yeah.
Once the budget's passed,
You
then
don't
it
have
goes
to
back
pass a
to
budget.
that idea of the mayor has discretion.
Right. So speaking about that, having to pass a budget.
Do you just automatically continue with last year's budget if nothing happens?
Is that
or,
where we're at
or
now?
do I get my dream of there's just no government?
That's the
Come on, don't
That's
take it away
the
from
question.
me.
It does default back to 2019 budget, and that's why I was looking at that today to see. I mean, the changes aren't going to be major if that happens. And again, if it's all
guys
within
just
the
have an
general
extra-
fund,
just have an extra
obviously
2%.
going to be moved. So yeah, I think that's what's we're trying to hash out with the city attorney what happens next.
I think some of that 2% is built in for overtime,
Right.
some things like that.
Cost of living.
Well, and so back to your fire department staffing question, I think another gray area for the city council is, they don't handle personnel issues. So, if it comes to hiring another person, that would be, I think, up to the fire chief to work with the administration to find money in the budget to do that. And the council's not involved at all.
So in the first reading, the budget it passed 6-1 to get started. Why do you guys think there was this change of heart between the first reading and the failure to get through a second reading? Where'd the six yes votes go?
Well, I think a big part of it was myself. I didn't know at that point we had these ordinances that said salary for firemen, salary for police, and maybe I'm wrong, but I assumed that we had contracts if we got their salary ordinance in the budget.
So it was a lack of information on the front end.
And then when I found out that wasn't the case, well, I didn't want to vote for a budget if these guys had not at least been talked to.
Right.
And I really was disappointed. I was disappointed in the mayor because he hadn't got that done. And even last Monday when we voted, or when we didn't vote on the budget, I'm not so sure that he couldn't have got a motion if he would have simply said, well, I think he had talked to him and was working with them. And very possibly if he'd have said, well, I've talked to these groups and I'm working with them, and, we might have voted on second reading, but we don't get a lot of communication sometimes. And that creates problems.
Seems to be a major shortfall of the current administration, not communicating well enough with the council or anybody.
I think that's probably true.
So what happened on my end was, I've gotten in the habit, and I don't think it's my job, but now I kind of have taken it upon myself to be my job, is, before the meeting, sometimes it's the Wednesday before, sometimes it's the Sunday night before, I publish the agenda online, because it occurred to me, how do people know when they need to come speak up about an issue? And they can always reach out to any of their council people, but if they don't know what's on the agenda, and we've tried to make it sure that they know it's, not an official agenda.
You guys call it an agenda or an itinerary, or what's the?
It's an agenda.
Yeah, it's called an agenda.
It's an agenda, and it can change, 15 minutes before even, or even as go. Well, some show notes are better than others, but some agendas are better than others. So I had posted that on Sunday night before the first reading, and I got a phone call, and it was from the fire union president, and he said, I see that the budget's on the agenda, and we haven't negotiated yet. And I thought that was odd. And that's why I voted no on the fire salary. I tried to explain that to the firemen I knew, so they knew that I wasn't, shaming them. Yeah, right. Exactly. I turned around after the meeting and asked Chief Schofield, I said, has the FOP negotiated? He said, no. I said, well, I need to apologize because had I known that, I would have voted no. I mean, it just a sign of good faith. But had I not, and that's what I told Tony was, had I not gotten in the habit of posting the agendas, none of those people would have known that it was on the agenda.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to give Aaron kudos because he's done some things like that. I'm sorry.
But
Aaron's
Aaron's
don't
awful.
you guys go play it
Aaron's
nice
awful.
and take away my wrestling
Aaron's
match?
awful. No, but anyway, I mean, Aaron, when Aaron came on the council, and it was what I thought would happen, he added a lot of new life. He added a lot of new ideas, and it's been tremendous. He's done a great job. He'd make a great something else.
Yeah.
So,
Listen, I was checking the Secretary of State's website, and it appears that an organization was formed back in the summer that's raising money.
You cut me off. What I was going to say is, I mean, that comes a testament to the leadership that Rex and Mark and Jeff have provided, the friendships that I've made, in the Republican Party and the Libertarian Party, and those conversations that you have across those party lines that show the importance of transparency for your constituents and making sure they know what's going on. And I think it's also a good way to, we say at work, CYA.
All right. To end the budget discussion on the show, because we're encroaching quickly upon
You've got a hard out here, Dakota.
I want to ask you about the city debt.
I'm ready.
How much are you ready?
Yep.
Do you have your papers out?
Yep. So
show me your papers, please.
City debt, not counting lease and bonds, is $35,164,597.93, and that's as some time ago.
35 million?
Now, listen, this is the crucial part that I think a lot of people miss. 97.6% of that is sewer related, long-term control plan
Mandated by the
mandated
courts.
by the state of Indiana and IDEM.
Okay.
The other part of that, I mean, which is what, 2.4%, it totals $832,525, is the Northfield TIF and the park bond, and final payments for those will be in 2022. Now, there's also some lease and bond payments. The lease payments are mostly for vehicles, department vehicles, trash vehicles. There's a sewage vac. And I nobody likes debt, right? But the flip side of that is your maintenance costs.
Well, so the trick of it in government and the way that the state has designed stuff is you can't pay cash because you're going to lose your piece of the pie. If you don't use bonds to pay for the stuff, then all of a sudden you lose that taxing arm and you don't get the revenue because of the way this is set up, which is completely ridiculous, but it is the world you live in.
What happens if all of a sudden we get a recession and Crown closes its doors?
Well, if
we're in trouble there. I mean, Crown is basically financing the 1400 Plaza when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
And when we passed that bond for around $2 million, of course, people were saying, well, that's going to come back. Can that come back on the taxpayers? And yes, theoretically, if Crown would close up, it could come back on the taxpayers. The only thing I've got to say about that is if we get to that point, we have a lot worse problems than whatever it is we're going to add to our tax.
Hearing a lot about trade wars and things going on right now.
Well, and I actually got the opportunity last year to take a tour through Crown, which was eye-opening because I've been wanting to do that, and they are just seeing continued growth.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do some research and find out what their constituency is. What how much of their business is domestic versus foreign, because
they've got
might be domestic
right now. I mean, I know they've got warehouses and factories all over the world though too. But I think one of the quicker growing ones is in Newcastle, Indiana.
Now I was talking to somebody from Draper today.
Don't quote me,
and
on that, but I think
they're closing up their international business.
Oh yeah,
they're closing that out because of the trade war. Plus, it was down anyway, but then the tariffs and the trade war and all that has basically meant that they're not making enough money to really make it worthwhile.
All right. I think we're at the point, and based on the time constraints that some of the folks have here, that we probably ought to transition so gracefully into final thoughts.
Are we going to final thoughts?
I think we probably should, unless you got something else you need to get to.
Yeah, just before we get to final thoughts, I want to hear from both of you guys because you don't have the pressure of an election. I want to hear the honest truth. Where do you see Newcastle headed towards, say, by the end of your next term?
That wasn't on the show notes.
Yeah, it is.
I thought it was.
It says right at the bottom.
Right above final thoughts.
Well,
missed that one.
You want me to take that one first?
You go for it.
Okay.
I've got
Well,
an answer.
I think that we do have some positive momentum going in Newcastle. And what happens with the 1400 Plaza and the buildings downtown is going to play a big part in that. And I think it may take us 4 to 8 years to find out just how much of an impact that has on the city. If everything goes well and those businesses get open and people come, well, things are going to be pretty good. And if all of a sudden the buildings are empty, things aren't going to be so good. But I think the thing we have to keep in mind is that people in Newcastle, I hear them talking about the 1400 Plaza and about things going on downtown, but most people in Newcastle don't really care about the 1400 Plaza. They don't really care about what's going on Broad Street. They care about what's going on Linden Drive or 19th Street or 24th Street or N Avenue or whatever, because they want to see if their street's been taken care of and they want to see if their trash has been picked up and the various things like that. And if we can keep delivering on those things, then I think we've got a firm foundation to be able to grow in the future. I know Corey Murphy with the Economic Development Corporation works hard at trying to bring business here and keep business here. And I think we're going to probably see some new things come in the next 4 years, which can only help us. One of the big problems we've got right now is workforce. This morning at the EDC meeting, they talked about how there are quite a few jobs out there and we just don't have people to fill them. So there are issues that we face, but I really think a lot of those things can be dealt with. And I've got confidence that when we got a young guy like Aaron Dicken and, out there that will deal with those. And we got people that are willing to voice their opinions like Chris Guffey back here and Dakota, young guys. I throw you in that young guy group.
I appreciate it. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on by a thread.
That was a pity.
but
That was a pity inclusion.
Yeah.
But
I'm closer to 40 than 30, but man, I appreciate it.
I taught school for 41 years, and I'd have people come up and they'd say, "Oh, those kids, they're driving you crazy. Probably they're awful, aren't they?" And I look at people, I say, they're not any different than they were 40 years ago. They may have different toys, they may have different pressures on them, but they're not any different, and they're still the vast majority of kids that graduate from Newcastle High School, and I'm sure it's the same with Shandong, Blue River, and Trident, they're great people, and they're going to be good people. They're going to be successful people. And if we dwell on that instead of dwelling on the ones that maybe don't turn out as good, or we try to see what we can do for them, then things are going to get better.
Councilman Dicken, if you say ditto, I'm going to slap you. I want a real thought.
Well, when you start with that, it's hard not to say ditto. No, we definitely have momentum. I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. A lot of that is attributed to the administration. A lot of that's attributed to the city council, but most of it is attributed to its citizens. You've got citizens that see things that maybe other people don't and bring it to, the council's attention, the administration's attention. That's when things get done. You've got citizens that step up and, lead organizations like the Preserve Henry County, the Hope Initiative. You've got organizations like the EDC and the Chamber that are all, pro Newcastle and marketing our best and our opportunities. I think our opportunities are just going to grow. I think where we can improve is managing those opportunities a little better. Whether it comes to planning and basically headhunting what kind of jobs we want, because, a lot of people our age are graduating and leaving, and it's, no offense to their families and no offense to their hometowns, but there's just nothing for them here, right? As far as opportunities, or the opportunities are slim. The other thing that I'm going to be pushing for in the next, coming year, 2, 3, 4, is that, because we are having such a problem with our workforce, and there's an argument out there that, economic development needs to kind of slow down because of that. The reason we're having that issue with workforce development is because we don't have enough rehabilitation and drug services, addiction services here. I know that that's kind of the conversation with this new jail with the county, is that there is going to be that element to it. But I think that's what, Henry County, Newcastle, Rush County, that community needs in order to capitalize on those opportunities that, their administrations and their community members are creating.
It's interesting how he lumps Rush County and Henry County into each other there.
I've got friends in Rush County. I do business in Rush County.
Wayne County too.
Brian Sheehan is, a good friend of mine. I do find myself in Hagerstown from time to time, actually.
Those two townships over in Wayne County are pretty I love those townships.
But that's just it. I think they're, it's easy.
We're about half of Rushville and over to about Arlington or so in Rush County.
Yeah.
You guys are
Doesn't
creating.
that make up a district or something?
You guys are
Doesn't that make
creating
up a congressional
quite an interesting puzzle piece there. You guys should draw gerrymandering maps.
Rush
or
County
something
down
like
to
that.
Posey Township
That
and then
Mandarin Jerry.
across
Mandarin Jerry. But I mean, I think that's where we need to break out of the box. We're not the only ones that are facing this issue. All of those communities and a lot of communities around Marion County, and around Hamilton and around, Carmel, that area, are all struggling with the same issues. And so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to be willing to talk to these other people, see what's going on. Like the jail committee.
We just have to be a better version of Shelbyville.
Yes, a little bit. I mean, Jack's is better than Lenny's, right? I mean,
There's no doubt about that.
Right.
All right.
So,
Definitely
short
final
answer,
thoughts.
Momentum and opportunity. We're ready for final thoughts. Is that what you said?
I think
We're
we
there.
are.
Yep, we're there.
I think we are.
Okay.
We'll start with Guffey, and then we'll work. You show us how it's done. Producer Chris.
You know,
You
actually,
got a sports desk update?
yes. Currently, the Patriots are playing the Giants, and the game is 0-0.
Houston and
As
Tampa.
you're
Do we have
listening to
anything?
this tomorrow morning in your car, it's super relevant.
Very. Actually, I don't really have anything on final thoughts because we hit the campaign trail the last 2 weekends, so I've decided to give my volunteers a rest weekend. They look very tired, and they just need to take this weekend off and enjoy themselves and their families.
It would have been
And-
nice if I had a weekend off, Jeremiah.
Hey, man, I'm a salesman. I can't stop it. I'm sorry you estimated it wrong, but I sold that job for you, and now you have to finish it.
Yep. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I hope everybody else has a great weekend.
Rex, you going door to door? You knocking on some doors and saying hey to people, or are you just sleeping on a Saturday morning?
I'm pretty much sleeping in. No, actually, I'm going to the Purdue football game this Saturday. It's been kind of dismal so far. I've went to the first three home games.
We got one win so far.
After two of them, I really felt like I would have been better off if I would have spent my time at home and ran 2 feet of water in the bathtub and stood on my head in there for 10 minutes. But we're going to go over there and
You write
check
that
that
down.
out. My granddaughter, I went to her last cross country meet, JV cross country meet the other night. She ran a personal best, and just thrilled with them. One granddaughter got accepted to Ball State, and but I'm just, I love Newcastle, and I like to talk to people. I get out and talk to people all the time. The other day, I was talking to some lady, and of course, I didn't even know her, somebody I didn't know, and I get talking to her, and finally she said, "Why am I talking to you?" And I said, well, I don't know, but now we're friends. I said, I know. And I went through 5 or 6 things I'd learned about her. And she goes, that's kind of scary. And I said, I'm not dangerous.
I work for the government.
You're trapped now. Yeah, you can't get out.
From the government, I'm here to help.
But, I enjoy talking to people. I mean, I have no problem going door to door, but, probably not doing it this year.
Well, very good. We appreciate it.
Probably,
very much
I
having
might
you
be
join
doing
us.
it next year, though, for somebody.
I
Maybe.
think if I would assume this prospective possible candidate who filed paperwork back in the summer and has been raising money, maybe is starting to put together some volunteer lists.
Yeah, I'd back that person for just about any office,
Yeah.
period.
I think, and this is, outside looking in, Rex, I think you'd make a great committee chairperson.
Well, I could do that.
I think
some business
that would
is
be
getting
awesome.
done. I think some business is getting done. Councilman Dicken, are you real attached to that name?
I mean, I like people to just call me Aaron. That's
Just Aaron.
fine. I've got some younglings that are 7th, 8th grade that call me Mr. Dicken still, and that's I mean, by your experience, probably going to happen forever.
Yes,
I
it
think
will.
only within the last 4 years I've started to call him Rex. So,
Well, it'd look real silly if you're like, Mr. Dicken, or Mr. Peckinpaugh, I was thinking maybe we could vote no this time.
Sometimes. Well, first of all, and you're going to find this out very soon, and I think you're finding it out, and Rex understands. I want to say a greeting to my kids that may be watching. Hopefully, Cece's in bed by now, but she's not been a great sleeper lately. But Braylon and Elle probably have this up on the Apple TV.
Starting to sound like Scott.
popcorn.
And I just want to say that I
Apple
love
TV.
Aaron Dicken's kids and his wife. They are the greatest
And
family in the
that's
world.
just it.
I think have you been watching Scott Pruitt hide on my wife and kids at home?
No, I'm just
Hold on. Apple TV.
Yeah. It's like a generation two.
I've
okay?
been
So
in your
just
basement. I
just
know.
hang on.
I know you got
pays
the Google
well.
Chromecast down in your basement where I live.
No, that's
3
true.
nights a month.
There you go. And that's the other thing. I mean, to be able to work 8 to 5, go home for an hour and a half, and say, "Hey, I'm going to this podcast, and we're probably going to get 25 people watching online, but it's going to be fun." And my wife to say, "Have fun." I mean, that's just really great, and she's been a huge support throughout this 4 years and
did you do?
this coming years. But so my final thoughts after Monday night, it's kind of been a stressful week. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I don't think that's necessarily a bad
That's
thing.
not a secret. We all know that about you, sir.
Right. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It shows I've got compassion for others. Shows I care what people think, which could be considered empathy. But I think the hard part of not having somebody run against you is you have to kind of self-assess. I'm pretty happy with the job I've been doing, but also being a recovering perfectionist, there are areas that I'd like to improve and grow.
Like that time you tried to take away smokers' rights.
Well, but again, look at the conversation that came out of that. I mean, that wouldn't
Right,
have
you
happened.
learned a lot.
I did, thank you. And so did you.
Well, that's true, though. I've learned so much talking to you guys at various times.
Right.
And it makes
If
you
I'm
think.
ever on Cash Cab, I'm going to be golden. But I'm doing the best at making rational decisions for our community and making sure the voices of citizens are heard. There are a lot of great things happening in our community. Parks are improving daily. The Parks Board's really done a great job with that.
Amen.
The new Parks Superintendent,
Amen.
Mike Burgum. Street maintenance has improved, I think, and that's a testament to Mr. Walker and the way he leads that department. And downtown's definitely gaining momentum. But what it takes to continue down that path of prosperity is a few things. Number one, integrity and truthfulness in daily living. Number two, those same attributes in transparent communication and not just talking, but listening. And no emphasis on who gets the blame or who gets credit, and genuinely considering each and every issue that comes to you. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't know me very well. If you watch the Facebook Live video, sometimes I throw some jokes out there that are amiss. But I hope to get to know, a lot more people in our area. And they get to know me and know
in the
that
surrounding area.
in the surrounding area.
All of Henry County and 2 townships.
I mean, what
in
it comes
Wayne County.
down to is that I take every issue to heart, and you can ask my wife and family that, and try to make Newcastle and Henry County, a place where all of us can raise our families, be proud of, and choose to live here and live here in prosperity.
Yeah, make
So,
Newcastle great again. I hear you.
I do want to say one other thing.
no.
I do want to say one other thing. And I want to say thank you to you guys for inviting me on. I've had a great time, and I think you guys offer a good product.
Oh,
Something
yeah.
that informs the people.
So we appreciate it very much. It's been fun.
This platform, I think, is huge locally. I know you guys have a great reach and a great partnership with your media partner too. So
Our very good friends at the Courier Times, publishing 5 days a week.
there you go.
Dakota, you got final thoughts?
I do have some final thoughts. This past week, there was a little get together and presentation thing right next to the Spiceland Town building, and they were going over a proposed comprehensive plan.
Spiceland
there.
again.
Yep, some Spiceland news. So they have, and I will share this from the page here soon for people who live in Spiceland, or maybe you just drive through there once a week or whatever on State Road 3. But there is a survey on SurveyMonkey that they're trying to get some public input from, and I know that public input means a great deal to the folks that are trying to come up with this. So I want to make sure that they can get all that they can. And then...
Wait. If Town Czar Dicken tries to do a land grab to the north, what can you guys do to fight him? Can you cut off his water supply? What can
Oh,
you do?
You mean Jacobs?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's
I haven't. Yeah,
I have a really funny-
Comrade Jacobs.
Speaking about Comrade Jacobs, I have a really funny idea that I want to run by you guys after the show. And it'll be
Not even the Patreon feed. Nice.
yeah.
We're not loading in a car and going out there, are we?
No. It'll be a great thing that one day.
Just don't ask any questions and be cooperative. You'll have a great time.
It'll be a great
Bring
thing
a glass of
that
ice cold milk.
it one day might make it into the Patreon feed if you guys think it's a good idea. Anyway, I know that the comprehensive plan means a great deal to those folks out there that are trying to formulate it, and public input is very important to that process. So, want to make sure that you guys can see that.
And usually there's a lot of opportunity that comes with those comp plans. We've seen that with the county. We've seen it with the city.
Right.
So, yeah, it is an important step.
and just having it is
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the direction that it goes, and they're asking. I think that they're asking all the right questions on that thing. But I guess thank you guys both for coming on, for kicking off the city election cycle and the show series. So it was a good episode. We talked about a lot with the budget that I think is important.
We
to a lot
did
of
the
folks.
heavy lifting for literally every other municipal candidate
That's right.
that comes
All
on
you
this
gotta do
show.
is listen to this.
Yep.
We'll see,
Take notes. Take notes.
We'll see.
Weigh in on your own
what they
opinion.
say. Two quick items from my side, real quick. Yeah, Guffey's pointing at his campaign materials that it seems like, that I read the paper today. Y'all copied what he said.
Hey, he had. In our defense, he has been coming to a lot of meetings since the campaign material, so maybe we had some impact.
or maybe he's changed the shape of the entire city already.
I mean, somebody did vote no last year, so that's not new.
And then it's growing.
And yeah,
I don't
right.
want to cause total panic in the streets, but our Aldi is getting ready to be shut down for about a month, and it's going to get updated.
That will cause panic. in the
So
streets.
I think they're closed for the night now, but y'all probably better go get your milk and eggs quick. 'cause
Dollar
it's
Tree
going to be
closed for, like,
closed.
one night, and people were freaking out.
It's going to be closed for a month, and you're going to have to go to Muncie to go to Aldi. Walmart, thankfully, is done.
And
with
they're
their
building a new
remodel.
one,
Yeah, they're
think.
remodeling the Aldi.
Or no, that's Panera. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're getting a new Panera.
We're getting a Panera. Is this what you're reporting?
Muncie. I thought Muncie was building a new Aldi. It's Panera.
Yes, they are. Muncie is building a new Aldi. That is fact. So just beware.
my word.
That's coming. The Aldi remodel is coming. It's going to
Just so
shut
you
down
guys
for
know.
a period of weeks, and it's going to be total crisis.
You guys ought to know from the Aldi conversation, Jeremiah belongs to a Facebook group called Aldi Nerds.
My dad is like an Aldi evangelist.
is awesome.
And he added me.
My wife
and
loves
somebody
Aldis.
and somebody had the balls
the blank.
to complain. No, this person had the balls
The
to
gall.
complain. The gall, the stones, to say they remodeled our store. Everybody got a $5 discount code but me in their local newspaper, and I want my damn coupon. And then she went to a Facebook group bitching about it,
Awesome.
and then she just got shredded by every other person in the group. And I was
That's
just
hilarious.
it was the greatest thing ever. I'm like, and she called Aldi corporate to complain, and they're like, well, it's based on the zip code you live in, and we only put the flyer in certain zip codes. So sorry about your luck.
Go
They
buy
were like-
paper.
Aldi's like, you're calling Germany. We don't care about you.
I said, well, obviously your zip code, people found you to be a pain in the ass, and they just didn't want to give you a coupon. They don't want your business. I went to the last cruise-in with Chris and a number of others, and had a great time. It was Mopar night on Friday night. Fantastic. My only disappointment is I tried to use the bathroom, and the damn thing was closed in 1400 Plaza. I pulled on the door, and I couldn't use the new bathrooms. And I said,
true, it was.
what was this about? All of this,
There's a
all
drain
the
at
build-up
the
all
other end
year
of the
long.
lot.
I don't want a public indecency
It
on
was a
Friday
conspiracy
night.
against you, probably.
And I was like, man, I walked up here and they turned the lock on me and I couldn't get in. So I still haven't tried the new bathrooms, but I was very excited. With
I'm
that,
gonna
The
tell you
gold
what,
toilet.
if you
I
wanna-
wanted to see inside.
If you
and
want
get
to see a great bathroom, go to the back porch bar.
I have
Their
used that one.
bathrooms are amazing.
The back porch bar has a beer keg for a urinal, and it is
but
phenomenal.
the
That's
smell,
awesome.
the smell when you walk in there it's the best smelling bathroom I've ever been in.
Well, I will.
until he leaves.
Yeah, I know.
I will leave that with you, Rex.
Hey, now we don't mention restaurants and stuff without getting a sponsorship.
I'm sorry.
So I can't say that
I'll
not a
talk to Dan
downtown
Cook
has a
about
really
that.
cool bathroom. Indy. Okay.
All right.
Definitely not.
With that, we thank you guys very much for joining us, and we'll see you
Hold on,
next
real
week.
quick.
What?
You forgot to mention that next week, it'll be on Tuesday, the 15th. Jerry Walden and I will be the guests.
Who's going to push the buttons? Rex, what are you doing next week? Can you push the buttons so that we can change
Can you
cheers
push
with
buttons?
Guffey?
I might be able to. I'll check.
Yeah, we'll check in on
Check
it.
tomorrow.
That'll be interesting.
Producer Rex.
No, it doesn't pay anything.
I'd have to have training. I don't need pay, but
Nobody else ever gets
training.
any money either. Thank you.
All right, now Rex and I are going to take you out with.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at wearelibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to wearelibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.